This being the final official installment to the Legacy of Kain Lore series. All of the actions of our two main protagonists have led us to this point. Kain's coin is still turning, and there is time yet to sway the outcome.
Given the choice, whether to rule a corrupt and failing empire, or to challenge the fates for another throw, a better throw against one's destiny, what was a king to do? But does one ever truly have a choice? One can only match, move by move, the machinations of fate, and thus defy the tyrannous stars.
Defiance occurs just after the events of Soul River 2, specifically after the third paradox, where Kain alters Raziel's fate to become imprisoned within the Reaver Blade. However, this created a powerful upset in time that causes history to reshuffle itself, and results in Blood Omen 2's storyline. Kain, still stuck in the time of the Sarafan, is separated from Raziel through a gap of some 5 centuries or so. Armed with the knowledge of the events in Blood Omen 2, Kain knows that he must find Raziel and warn him not to resurrect Janos, who would go on to become the energy source for the Hilden's device that could bring about the destruction of all of Nosgoth. However, he had no idea where Raziel was, or rather, when Raziel was, for they were separated across time during the paradox. Thus, Kain goes to infiltrate the stronghold of the Sarafan and find Moebius the Time Streamer and Master Manipulator to seek answers.
Deep within these walls my prey awaited. Moebius, the Time Streamer, deceiver and eternal gamester, using living beings as his pawns. It was time for Moebius to answer a few questions. I hoped for his sake to find him in a forthcoming mood.
Yes, I understand. It will be done. The stage is set. You needn't linger in the shadows, Kain. It has been a long time, hasn't it?
No banter, Moebius. You know why I'm here.
Yes, Raziel. You sought to introduce your own pawn into this game, and now he's been swept from the board.
By your hand, I suspect. Where is he?
Perhaps you should ask, when? How humiliating it must be for you to come begging at my doorstep for answers.
Enough wordplay.
Don't threaten me. You see, I have the upper hand. How remarkable that the great Kain should succumb to the scepter's power like any common vampire. Still so arrogant after all these years, thinking you've devised some brilliant plan. You know nothing. You have read the signs, but missed their meaning. You believe you are that myth of vampire prophecy, the scion of balance, and that Raziel holds the key to fulfilling your destiny. But your messianic delusions have blinded you to Raziel's true nature. You have no idea what you've unleashed. There was a time when you might have heeded wise counsel when it was offered. Now, your vanity has made you witless. You will have to learn the truth for yourself. You'll be needing this. Your strength will return after I have departed. But by then, you will have more urgent concerns than pursuing me. Perhaps, when we next meet, you will have learned a little humility.
These strange creatures seem to manifest from the very shadows. Moebius's attempt at stopping me was not one of his better efforts. When I found him, it would be my turn to offer a few surprises.
Kain begins infiltrating the fortress, slaughtering the guards and making his way towards Moebius. During this time, he comes across a strange fragment of the balance emblem, to which the Reaver was attuned. It was placed most intentionally for him to find it, leading him to believe that it was within Moebius's interest for him to discover it. Upon finding the Time Streamer, he sees him talking to an invisible master, and Kain interrupts, demanding to know where Raziel was. Moebius taunts him, telling him that Raziel was well out of his reach. Kain loses his temper, attempting to threaten Moebius, but he uses his scepter to subdue Kain. He then suggests that Kain doesn't understand either his own nor Raziel's destiny, and so he needed to learn the truth on his own. Moebius then leaves the chamber, and Kain resolves to find the Time Streamer and offer a few surprises of his own. The game then shifts focus to Raziel, trapped in the underworld by the Elder God.
Surrender, Raziel. Abandon this petty rebellion. It was I who made you. Your life had played out, and in my grace I spared you. You are my Reaper of Souls. You have no other purpose, no higher destiny. Just this. Accept your calling, Raziel. Let go of these vain hopes. Relinquish your will and feed.
No.
What do you profit from this defiance?
There's some grim satisfaction in infuriating you.
My patience is eternal, Raziel. How many eons can you bear to languish here? The wheel of fate must turn. All are redeemed in the cleansing agony of birth, death, and rebirth. This is the engine of life, the purifying rhythm of the universe to which all souls are irresistibly drawn. Yours is a necessary and noble function, Raziel.
Enough of your sermonizing. Are you trying to bore me into submission? Why must this game go on? We both know what you are. You're no better than the vampires you so despise. A voracious parasite, cloaking its appetite in a shroud of righteousness. I refuse to do your will.
I can see into your heart, Raziel. It is not your will, but cowardice that keeps you here.
How so?
You know what fate awaits you when you leave the underworld. That phantom weapon you bear is a constant reminder, isn't it? The sword is waiting for you out there somewhere, and you tarry so as not to meet it.
I could not deny it. As long as I lingered here, defying my captor, I was able to postpone what I feared was my inevitable doom. To become the ravenous spirit imprisoned in the Reaver blade. But that sentence was no worse than the stalemate I now endured. Better to face one's destiny than cower from it.
Harvester of souls, I created you. And to this function, my angel of death, you will return.
Enough. Yes, I submit.
Very good. Indulge your hunger. Yes, embrace your calling, Raziel. You will find that just as defiance has its price, so obedience has its rewards.
And submission is not always what it seems.
The Elder God tells Raziel that his only purpose is to act as his servant, his reaper of souls, to return others to the wheel of fate, and thereby feed the Elder God. Raziel is tired of this rhetoric, and still believes in his higher purpose. However, the Elder God also rightly points out that Raziel was terrified of meeting the Soul Reaver blade in the physical world, and so he remained in a stalemate against the Elder God as a reason to postpone his destiny. Resolving to face his destiny rather than to cower from it, he submits and acts according to the Elder God's will. He then makes a dash to escape the chamber and evades the Elder God. However, he was still trapped within the spectral realm, and any conduits to the physical world would be suppressed by his former captor. Raziel sets out to find a way into the material realm and break free of his prison. Kain learns that Moebius was hiding within the tower, and so sets forth to enter it. Within the stronghold, he finds another fragment of the Reaver, known as Flame. This power allowed him the ability to create conflict, turning friends against one another. It also amplified his telekinetic abilities so that he could light sconces using elemental fire. With this newfound fragment of the balance emblem, he confronts Moebius, quickly disarming the time streamer and demanding once again the answers he sought.
Here you are at last. I see you found a fragment of the balance emblem. This will be of even further use to you, if you can find the other 3. Now, shall we?
Yes. Let us continue our conversation, but on a somewhat different footing. Now, what do you have to tell me, Moebius?
You cannot kill me. We both know that this is not how or when I die.
Death is not the only possible outcome.
Your delusions of fulfilling the vampire's foolish prophecies have badly distorted your judgment. And Raziel is not what you think.
You dare imagine what I think.
So, you prevented Raziel's soul from entering the Reaver. Do you believe for a moment that by this you have averted your fate? Or his? Or that of Nosgoth itself? Your manipulations are pathetic.
Yet Raziel retains his free will, and that's what frightens you, isn't it, Moebius? You cannot see his path, and so you cannot control it.
And neither can you. Yes, Raziel is shrouded from us, but we see the ripples of his potential actions, and every path he might choose leads to the same outcome. He will kill you, Kain. In sparing Raziel, you have written your own death sentence.
You still have not answered the question I came to ask. Where is Raziel?
He is not, in a true sense, here. Not now.
Don't try my patience, Moebius. What have you done with him?
He is contained. In time, it may be safe to release him. His destiny must be completed. He will enter the sword. But until that time, he is dangerous. Far more dangerous than you could understand.
And your incontrovertible evidence?
The answers are plain, if you know where to look. Go west of the pillars. There you will find a testament written in stone.
But stones, too, can lie.
Moebius again iterates that Kain knows nothing of his or Raziel's fate, and that Kain's actions have been meaningless up to this point. Kain counters, reminding him that Raziel still possessed his free will, so that Moebius cannot control him nor see what course of action Raziel would take. Moebius admits that this is true, but every possible future that he had gleaned shows one thing that remains true: Raziel will murder Kain. Moebius advises Kain to go west of the Pillars of Nosgoth, so that he can see the truth. And so Kain decides to indulge the time streamer and investigate further. Raziel manages to find a means of entering the material realm, and discovers that he had lost 500 years in the underworld, so that Nosgoth was already in ruin and the spirit of Ariel haunted the pillars. After battling some of Moebius' vampire hunters, he decides he would need to head to the pillars and speak to Ariel for some guidance. However, before he could leave the cemetery, it seemed that the Reaver would need to be further enhanced with elemental powers of light and darkness.
An ancient gate, sealed by the powers of light and darkness, barred the way to the pillars beyond. To depart this place and continue my journey, I would have to find the means to open it. At last it was done. The Reaver was forged with darkness. As I felt this new power coursing within the Wraithblade, I knew that now the Light Temple would open to me. I had succeeded. The Reaver was forged with the power of light, and now my way was clear. I would seek out Ariel at the pillars and see if she could enlighten me.
Raziel enters the ancient vampire chambers for the Dark and Light Reavers, and begins to piece together Nosgoth's ancient history, how the ancient vampires religiously believed in the Wheel of Fate, how the Reaver Blade was their holy weapon, always depicted with reverence, the rising of the Circle and the Pillars of Nosgoth, and eventually the Hilden's curse of bloodlust, which he thought had caused the vampires' suffering.
Throughout these ruins, I found murals depicting the seminal events of vampire history. These scenes commemorated a great war between the ancient vampires and their rivals. In triumph, they banished their adversaries from the world and raised the pillars as the lock that binds them. The image of the Reaver was inscribed throughout this place, always depicted with reverence. The vampire's holy weapon was destined to be borne by their prophesied hero, for whom it was forged. But if this was my destiny, why had the Reaver tried to consume me? In their defeat, the vampire's enemy retaliated with a terrible curse, afflicting the vampires with a bloodthirst that turned their once noble race into ravenous predators. This curse plunged the vampires into despair and apparently drove many to madness and self-annihilation. What was it that so devastated them that they were driven to suicide?
With the Reaver imbued with elemental light and darkness, he was able to open the gate at the end of the cemetery and make his way toward the pillars.
At last, the gate yielded to the powers of light and darkness with which the Reaver had been forged. The way to the pillars was open.
Kain finds the pillars in their pristine condition, before their downfall, and wonders whether he could truly save Nosgoth.
How strange to see this place long before my birth. Centuries before the corruption set in that would poison the land and put me on the treacherous path I still followed. In the future, these edifices would be condemned to darkness and decay. I would cause their fall and build my empire upon their ruins. Was it still possible that with the right knowledge, the right moves, I might one day see Nosgoth restored, the pillars pure once more? My answer, according to Moebius, lay somewhere to the west of this place. I could restore the world, perhaps, but never again could I give Nosgoth back her innocence.
He then finds a second fragment of the Balance Emblem, wielding powers over dimension. Using this new fragment, he dispels the mist shrouding the lake and revealed an ancient Vampire Citadel, where he would supposedly find his answers. 500 years in the future, Raziel also arrives at the pillars. However, to progress further, he would need to imbue the Reaver with elemental fire, and so he enters another vampire chamber, this one showing images of the forging of the Reaver. He recognizes the swordsmith, Vorador, and resolved to find him once he was finished at the pillars. By absorbing the souls of the ancient vampire guardians of nature and conflict, he imbued the blade with elemental fire, giving him access to the pillars.
Once again, I beheld the pillars of Nosgoth, crumbling in decay now, following the corruption of the Circle. Here I would find Ariel, the spectre of the murdered Balance Guardian, and the last pure, undefiled member of the Guardian Circle. Bound here upon her death, she was doomed to haunt these pillars until her successor fulfilled his terrible duty. and balance was restored.
What manner of creature approaches?
I know you well, Ariel, though you do not yet know me.
I have no time for riddles, strange one.
All you have is time. I have come to seek your guidance.
I counsel only one man, and you are not he. But you will know him soon. The contagion of your kind is coming to an end.
My kind? What exactly do you think I am?
Your name shall remain unspoken, as decreed by our ancestors. You serve the one who so brutally took my life and set this tragedy in motion. But even now, hope is at work. Balance will be restored, and your kind will be expelled forever.
You have pinned your hopes on Kain. He will disappoint you.
What can you know of Kain?
More than you could ever fathom.
He will do what he must when the time comes.
By choosing his own death. A sacrifice for the world. You don't know Kain very well.
I know what he is called to do. My faith sustains me.
Is it faith or fear? You know that if Kain refuses the sacrifice, you will never leave here. And you begin to suspect.
I will not hear your poison, fiend.
Grant me the answers I require, and I will leave you to your pathetic delusions.
Ask, then.
I seek the vampire Vorador.
To kill him, perhaps, or to join him in death. But for Kain, he is the last of his kind. Moebius's mob has done its work.
My reasons are my own.
His refuge lies in the heart of the Black Forest. And may you molder there together until the end comes.
Upon reaching the pillars, Raziel finds and speaks with Ariel, the spectre of the murdered Balance Guardian. In this age, she is still clinging onto the delusional idea that Kain will sacrifice himself to restore Nosgoth. She also takes Raziel to be Unspoken, otherwise known as the Hilden. Raziel asks her where he can find Vorador, and she shows him the way. He then enters another vampire chamber, where he sees the depiction of the vampires' prophesied adversary, who bore a flaming sword. Defeating and absorbing the souls of the Mind and Dimension Guardians, he imbues the Reaver with the elemental power of air, granting him access to Vorador's mansion. Kain discovers the ancient vampire prophecy within the Citadel that depicted the Hilden champion brandishing a flaming sword, and slaying the vampire champion. Here was again the suggestion that Raziel might bear that flaming sword, and would actually be Nosgoth's destroyer rather than its redeemer. After finding a third fragment of the balance emblem imbued with properties of lightning, he continues his journey.
Nestled deep in the Black Forest, Vorador had once held court over a private kingdom, as decadent as it was depraved. Now all was still. I hoped I had not arrived too late. This mysterious chamber was clearly significant. Perhaps I would finally find the elusive Vorador within. The braziers were all lit, but still the door remained sealed. Perhaps I had ignited too many.
Raziel enters another vampire chamber within Vorador's mansion, and finds a mural depicting the prophecy.
Here the images were unadulterated, and their meaning ominously clear. The vampire hero, the bearer of the Reaver blade, was confronted by an adversary worthy of his powers. The enemy race, long banished, had a champion of their own, with flaming eyes and a fiery sword. The resemblance I bore to the adversary mocked all my hopes. Had Kain been the vampire hero of prophecy all along? Did he suspect what I was? For if I was this foretold adversary, then Moebius was right, and had always been right. I was destined to fight Kain and destroy him, or be destroyed. What part did free will play in any of this?
This one showed his striking resemblance to the vampires' enemy, and so he began to doubt whether he had been wrong all along, and whether Moebius had been truthful. Defeating and absorbing the souls of the Death and States Guardians, he enhanced the Reaver with elemental powers of water, thus giving him access to Vorador's crypt.
So, our wretched little savior returns. Come to join the last pathetic battle of the vampire race? But on which side, I wonder?
I've not come to fight you, Vorador.
You don't know why you're here.
I know this much, that you are the author of my fate, and as such, only you can rewrite it.
You give me too much credit.
You forged the Reaver. I have seen the evidence.
I was its maker, yes?
Then you know its purpose.
No. Only the scraps of prophecy my master shared with me.
And do these scraps explain why you would forge a weapon to imprison your savior?
Ah, well then. It seems we have our answer. You've chosen your path.
I have chosen nothing. I've been deceived at every turn. You seem to know what I am. Tell me.
I thought I did once. But now all the prophecies have failed. The pillars are corrupted. I am the last of my kind, and when Moebius's hunters find me, it will have all been for nothing.
You've forgotten about Kain.
Ah, yes, Kain. I fear he shoulders a greater burden than he realizes. I cannot help you, even if I was inclined to. I crafted the Reaver blade, but only at the behest of my sire, Janos. What sorcery he and the others laid upon the sword afterward, I cannot say.
Janos tried to give me the Reaver before he died. He said that it was forged for me. But what did he mean? As my weapon or my prison?
Perhaps you should ask him yourself.
Janos is here.
In a manner of speaking. The greatest of us all, the father of our race. The Seraphim tore the heart from his living body 5 centuries ago.
But there's no sign of decay. How is this possible after all these years?
Somewhere, the heart still beats, and while it does, the body will remain preserved. If his heart could be restored, Janos might yet be raised.
And you haven't tried to recover it in all these years?
Many times. But our enemies hid the heart too well. It was taken as a trophy to Avernus Cathedral centuries ago, where they christened it the Heart of Darkness. Believing that it embodies the essence of our dark gift, they hid the heart away lest it fall into the wrong hands. Our hands. Redeem yourself. You may be our last hope. Perhaps you alone can find the heart, if it is meant to be found. If Janos can be resurrected, he will have all the answers you require. This key will open your way to Avernus. But be advised, there are dark sorceries at work in the cathedral. You must be on your guard.
Raziel speaks with Vorador, who can offer no guidance, and instead defers him to Janos. However, Janos has been in a state between life and death for over 5 centuries, ever since the Seraphim tore his heart out and christened it the Heart of Darkness. This artifact they hid within the Avernus Cathedrals, and so Raziel travels there in search of it. Kain enters a chamber within the Citadel, and finds a mural depicting the human rebellion. Here, he discovers that Moebius and Mortanius were the leaders of the Bloody Revolt, the ones who sought to purge the vampires from Nosgoth. He then finds two endings to the vampire prophecy, one in which the vampire hero perishes, and another where the Hilden hero perishes. Kain struggled to make sense of these as he continued onward. He finds the Time Reaver, which also completes the balance emblem in this iteration of the game. Initially, Kain was to find all 8 principles of Nosgoth, and thus complete the balance emblem. However, this would make the game quite lengthy, and so they cut the material in this final version of the game. Using the completed balance emblem, he enters the chamber at the heart of the Citadel. There, he discovers the Elder God.
For my ancient ancestors, the dark gift was clearly a curse, damning them to a kind of spiritual purgatory. But why were they compelled to seal this chamber so securely? Perhaps the lock was not meant to keep intruders out, but to imprison something within.
Kain, scion of balance, savior of Nosgoth.
What is this?
Your arrival is foretold. The fates have willed it.
Is that so?
I am the oracle of your ancestors. I can provide the answers you require. You needn't speak. I know your mind. You seek knowledge of your creature Raziel. This I can offer, if you will look. He has found the body of Janos. He journeys now to Avernus Cathedral to seek the heart of darkness. You know what this means.
And why would I trust your prophecies?
These events are already written just as you feared. But there is still time. He can be stopped.
If Avernus is in flames, Raziel is 5 centuries beyond my reach.
I may aid you in this regard as well. This portal will transport you in time to the very hour that Raziel arrives in Avernus. This task is yours to carry out, since it was you who made him what he is. When you are ready, you may pass through.
I knew, of course, that this oracle was not to be trusted. But in the end, what choice did I have? This peculiar sensation was familiar to me, and the chamber did indeed appear altered by time. In this regard, at least, the oracle seemed to have been truthful.
I have delivered you faithfully to the very hour you desire. You know what must be done, Kain. There is only one way to prevent Raziel from doing great harm.
He is not my enemy.
But you are his.
Raziel enters Avernus, seeking the Heart of Darkness. But before he can do so, he must imbue the Reaver with elemental earth. Entering the vampire chamber, he discovers at last that it was the Elder God that the vampires worshipped, and that after they became immortal, they were trapped in a sort of spiritual purgatory, unable to return to their beloved Wheel of Fate. He described the Elder God as a parasite, and stresses that he was no god. Absorbing the souls of the Energy and Time Guardians, he imbues the Reaver with elemental earth, and reveals the catacombs of Avernus below.
As the handsome coffin hides the putrefying corpse within, the great cathedral of Avernus seemed to hold its own secrets, hidden in the catacombs beneath its vaulted chambers. Was this the source of the corruption that infected Nosgoth? Vorador had hinted at something more. History is written by the victors. Beneath the vaults of Avernus, I discovered scenes that told a familiar story, but from a very different point of view. This was the work of the enemy race, and revealed what the vampire histories had conveniently omitted, how the noble vampires, guard-ridden and righteous, had started the wars that would destroy both races, victor and vanquished alike. Their adversaries opposed the vampires' god, and refused to submit to the Wheel of Fate. For this, they were banished. I now understood the poetic irony of their curse, and my resemblance to the vampire's enemy no longer seemed so accidental.
Entering the catacombs of the Avernus Cathedral, he discovers a mural depicting the ancient war between vampires and Hilden. However, this mural showed the vampires as the initiators of the war. They began the bloody battle, because the Hilden refused to submit to their god and to the Wheel of Fate. This is what had incited the conflict and what ultimately resulted in their banishment. He once more finds depictions of the Hilden champion, bearing a flaming sword, and so resembling his own appearance. The Elder God says that this was his true destiny, but Raziel makes no comment nor commitment. Moving forward, he discovers a blood ritual deep in the catacombs. The priests of Avernus, led by Mortanius, Guardian of Death, worshipped something within the pit that they called Hashak Gik. Raziel stands on the edge, wondering what lay beneath, when he is suddenly propelled into the pit via telekinesis. Once within, he finds the final brother that hadn't met his wrath as a vampire, Terrell. Terrell was the god that they worshipped, but what was more, Terrell seemed to be merely a vessel, possessed by something far more sinister.
Whatever so-called god inhabited this hideous pit, I was about to meet it.
I smell no blood. Throat cut first, blood gouting, then it falls into the pit. The sacrifice is rejected. You will know my wrath. Not possible. No, it could not be.
Stand away, monster!
No. That voice. Not possible. I know that voice. But he fell. The abyss. He ended there.
I did not fall into the abyss.
Oh. It remembers that, does it?
I was thrown in by my own brethren.
I heard what you did to them. And now, you have found me at last.
Terrell!
Terrell! Yes, that was my name then.
The others were grotesque, but...
Yes, I am changed. I have become a god, greater than you ever were, Raziel. You were never a god. Greater even than Kain!
It is to you that these humans offer their blood sacrifices?
Hashak-Gik! Hashak-Gik! Yes.
But how did this happen?
I was summoned. There was darkness and great hunger. And then I was found.
Why do you stay in this terrible place?
Why stay? Would I remain if I could get out? While they hound me and tear at me and... The hour is at hand, as it was foretold.
Terrell?
Use his voice to command the disciples above. We demand offerings to keep the host alive. He has been a durable vessel, but he can take us no further. You must prevail. The champion of our enemy draws near. No! I must have blood! Bring me blood! Or feel the wrath of your god. Yours. Yes, it will strengthen me against them.
What are you doing?
No more questions. No more worship. Time to run. Time to scream. Time to die.
Climbing out of the pit, Raziel comes face to face with Mortanius, Guardian of Death, who reveals that he had used the Heart of Darkness to resurrect Kain, and so the heart resides within him. Mortanius also shows that he too is possessed by the Unspoken, and Raziel speaks with the entity that continues to instruct Raziel that he must kill Kain as it is his destiny. Mortanius manages to overpower them long enough to leave. He would go to meet a younger Kain who would slay him, as was the events of Blood Omen 1. Raziel exits the catacombs, only to come face to face with Kain.
Kain, why is this no surprise?
Because our destinies run together, Raziel, like two rivers that have met and can never be distinct again. At your every fatal turn, you'll find me.
And the free will you said was mine, what has become of that?
You still have it. And that has everything to do with my presence here now.
It was your machinations that set my destiny in motion. The coin you tossed has struck the earth. Now you must abide by its outcome.
The coin is still turning, Raziel. To reach the resolution we both can live with, that will best serve our futures, Janos Ordran must not be raised.
Because you do not wish it? Is my free will to be exercised only when it accords with your whim?
There is much more at stake in this than you know.
Yes, and it is Janos who has the answers I desire.
You must trust me, Raziel. Our intentions, for Nosgoth, for our futures, are not so diverse.
I must trust you. Or...
I've not come here to threaten you, Raziel.
You say that, while you hold in your hand the instrument of my doom?
I saved you from the Reaver once. I have no intention of imprisoning you within the blade.
At least not until the moment it serves your plans to do so.
You are not the only one at risk. I may carry the instrument of your destruction, but I too have taken a chance in coming here. Or haven't you realized? You bear the only weapon that can kill me.
Then you know what I am, and who you are?
I believe I do.
And still you think you can move me about like your pawn? Think again, Kain.
Take heed, Raziel.
Why? If we are who we are, then are we not destined to fight to the death, to decide the fate of Nosgoth?
Don't be a fool! I will not fight you!
And that will be the prophesied hero's battle? I win because you will not fight me? The mighty Kain, scion of balance, would-be savior of Nosgoth, surrenders before the final battle even begins!
Very well. If this will make you see reason... Now, you will listen to me. The heart of darkness must remain undiscovered. Great harm will come of its use.
You don't know where it is, do you?
No.
You never looked for it.
It doesn't matter, Raziel. Listen to me. You must understand that every creature is bound to one predestined path. We are all shackled.
To the wheel of fate. Believe me, I know that even better than you do.
All but one. Because of your remaking, you are the one unbound creature, the one among us all that truly has free will. You have a choice, Raziel.
Which I'm sure I must make at your direction. Your pawn has reached the end of the board, Kain, and now my powers may even surpass yours. How ironic. If the creature that you made should prove your own undoing. Now, we finish this, once and for all.
Raziel. They Victus. I didn't. Woe to the conquered. I have found the heart of darkness, and you go to oblivion.
Kain was gone. The madness of this place had somehow fueled my rage, and as it subsided, I felt no elation, no sense of victory. Only a calm certainty that we had once again walked blindly into our enemy's trap. I couldn't be sure whether Kain had truly intended to destroy me, and now it appeared I would never know.
Raziel awakens Janos and shows him his predicament, how he holds the wraith blade and not the physical blade because it will imprison him. Janos is shocked by this and realizes that he does not know Raziel's true destiny, that he may have misread or understood some part of it. And so he brings Raziel to the ancient Vampire Citadel and gives him the key to the Inner Sanctum in order for him to discover his true destiny.
I should have known I'd find you here.
Here and everywhere, now and always. I am the wheel and its turning. I am the circle of life and death.
And I am beginning to think the vampires committed suicide only to escape your voice.
Do not forego my favor with your impertinence, Raziel. You have finally fulfilled your purpose. I am pleased.
What are you trying to obliterate here, then? What is it about me that has you so afraid?
Your fate is trivial, Raziel. It was Kain's destiny that mattered all along.
At the heart of the Inner Sanctum, he finds none other than the Elder God, who tells him that he had done exactly as was expected. Raziel pushes back his influence, and using all the elemental powers of the Reaver, activates the final forge of the ancient vampires, calling forth the Balance Guardian Ariel.
It is accomplished. The forge summons the spirit of every Balance Guardian to itself for this final purpose.
Ariel? You?
Yes, Raziel. Yet I am much more than I was. The veil is lifted from my sight. My spirit, united with the souls of my predecessors, is drawn here now for the final baptism of the blade. To restore balance, the sword must be rendered pure by spirit. Release me, Raziel. The Soul Reaver has the power. Release us all. For this we were called. then will the Scion of Balance be armed for his true endeavor. Only then.
The Reaver now blazed with purifying flame, but far from being enlightened, I found myself entangled in an even greater web of mysteries. What had Janos expected me to learn? And what of Ariel's cryptic message? If the sword was endowed for the Scion of Balance, for Kain, and he was now dead, what hope remained? I needed to find Janos, and soon. I dreaded to think what these ominous rumblings might portend.
The cataclysmic hour is at hand, the binding fails, and the younger Kain refuses to sacrifice, causing the collapse of the Pillars of Nosgoth. When this happens, the Hilden Lord is able to break free and possess Janos Ordrum.
Ah, Raziel, we meet again. You have played your part flawlessly. It is gratifying to attain both freedom and vengeance in a single stroke.
No! You cannot!
This one is strong. Good. My next move requires a more durable host. Mortals are such fragile vessels. Willing or not, you have provided the instrument of our victory.
I wouldn't celebrate just yet.
You pathetic creature. You haven't got a clue. The seduction of the Circle and possession of Mortanius, Ariel's murder, the corruption and collapse of the Pillars, all orchestrated as a prelude to this moment. We sought an incorruptible vessel, and you provided one. We required the blood of our ancient enemy, and you delivered Janos Ordrum, having first been lured to the heart of darkness. Best of all, you murdered the Scion of Balance to get it. We've already won.
Raziel, you must not allow them to carry out their plan. Kill me, and you end it now.
Suicidal like the rest of them. Know your place, Raziel. The true hero plays his role and then steps aside. You deluded ghoul. Do you so wish to die a martyr for the vampire's lost cause?
You're not leaving this chamber. I will destroy Janos if I have to.
Very well then. I'll indulge you.
Raziel, finish it before he returns.
You should have listened to me. It is finished, and thus a new epic has its beginning.
As Raziel slips into the underworld, he is once again made prisoner of the Elder God. The Elder God berates Raziel and mocks his foolish attempts at saving Nosgoth, but here he once again reveals that Raziel is undying, and so not bound to the Wheel of Fate. This truth again is in direct contradiction with the idea that the Elder God was the one that resurrected Raziel. However, there is one final part to this story that will conclude the Legacy of Kain.
I refuse to bend my will.
It has always been my will you satisfy, never your own.
You parasitic fraud. You are forced to imprison me because I possess free will.
You possess nothing. As you are undying, your soul cannot be returned to the wheel. But it may console you to abide here in eternity with me. Moebius, my good servant, I call you to the place of our first meeting. Return to me here.
Kain awakens in the demon dimension, still alive since the heart had not been destroyed. And so he fights his way out and returns to the Vampire Citadel to see the pillars in ruins. He begins to doubt whether he had misread the signs, and missed his chance of destiny, before entering the Inner Sanctum of the chamber that Raziel had opened before, and he finds Moebius, the Time Streamer. Moebius is astonished to find Kain alive.
The Hilden are merely an inconvenient consequence. They will be dealt with in time. It is a small price to pay for Kain's death.
You're a bit premature.
Kain!
Is there a crack in your omniscience after all, Moebius? First, your omniscience, and now your powers. You're slipping badly.
This is not possible.
The part of me that staff affected is no longer in its place, but you already knew that, didn't you? I always was considered heartless. And now, Moebius, it is time.
To kill me? Again? Your only solution for every problem. Kill!
This is not a debate. You see, this time, you have nothing that I want.
You think this will matter? I serve one who has power over life and death.
Then go to him.
I am his obedient, his devoted servant. Soon, all pain will fade, and my master will bring me life once more. Master, my apologies. A momentary oversight. Somehow Kain still lives, and has unexpectedly dispatched me. Make use of your good servant, and... Go to your master, then. I release you to the wheel. Oh, God, no. Do you see it now? The monster that you served. Is this what you imagined when you worshipped it? No! And in that knowledge, go and feed it. I release you.
Your petty actions are irrelevant, Raziel. Moebius was a good servant, but he was of no further use. His long life had run its course. You see, even when you rebel, you are doing my will.
Perhaps. But something has changed, hasn't it? You didn't foresee Kain's return.
You have both traced your paths along the wheel. This is where the journey ends.
You haven't the means to kill either one of us.
Ah, but you can be stopped. And you will come to understand how oblivion can be a mercy. You and Kain will spend eternity buried here together, praying for the merciful release of a death that will never come.
But I was armed with newfound knowledge, and it burned within me.
Redeemer and Destroyer.
Moebius had never seen his master until the Soul Reaver purified his sight. Even the ancient vampires had no idea what it was they so righteously worshipped.
You must unite what has been set asunder.
all the conflict and strife throughout history, all the fear and hatred, served but one purpose: to keep my master's wheel turning. All souls were prisoners, trapped in the pointless round of existence, leading distracted, blunted lives until death returned them, always in ignorance, to the wheel.
The coin is still turning.
But what hope had there been? One cannot fight the unseen.
Only then will the Scion of Balance be armed for his true endeavor.
Despair, Raziel. There is no escape.
It was then I knew what I had to do. I alone could end this.
Kain,
Do you so enjoy death?
yes. Raziel.
No! Yes, this is how...
No! Raziel!
The Soul Reaver, pure of all corruption. This is what it is for. This is what I am for. The two become one. Both Soul Reavers together. And the Scion of Balance is healed. And I am not your enemy, not your destroyer. I am, as before, your right hand, your sword.
No, Raziel. This can't be the way.
And now you will see the true enemy.
Raziel. And it was then I saw.
So, I am revealed to you at last.
What in hell?
I am the origin of life, the devourer of death. I am the hub of the wheel, the purifying cycle to which all souls must be drawn.
Had I condemned Raziel to this nightmare when I cast him into the abyss?
You may ponder the futility of your ambitions as you spend a deathless eternity beneath a mountain of rubble. You and your Soul Reaver will go equally mad as the eons pass. The Citadel of the Apostates will become your living tomb.
Your words are heartening. For you would not fear us unless we could truly do you harm.
No! You are nothing!
False god. This is the end. The final turn of your wheel.
The Wheel of Fate is not an inexorable outcome, but their prison, through which all souls were bound. No one could escape the wheel because the Elder God shackled all souls to it, and therefore no one in Nosgoth could possess free will. This is the crux of the series, that the Elder God prevents that concept of immortality, and what was more, he loathed that idea. They must all be trapped in his cycle, prisoners of fate and predestination. Raziel understood this at last, and knew what had to be done. Finally, Raziel understood and explained to Kain that this was his destiny, to purify the Reaver and then equip Kain with the power necessary to face the true enemy. Raziel is only able to do this thanks to what Ariel had termed the final baptism of the blade, and that the blade must be purified by spirit in order for the sword to be whole again. Jesus Christ himself is baptized, and it is only through his death that he could become a true shepherd to that everlasting life. In a similar fashion, Raziel's spirit is baptized, and through his sacrifice, he accords Kain with the clarity necessary to save and redeem all of Nosgoth. Kain manages to defeat him, and the chamber crumbles. trapping and presumably killing the Elder God, so that his influence could no longer affect Nosgoth as before. Kain had therefore fulfilled the prophecy. Raziel defeated Kain, and Kain absorbed Raziel into the Reaver, and with the all-powerful Soul Reaver now completed thanks to Raziel's sacrifice, he was able to destroy the Wheel of Fate, liberating all of the trapped souls within Nosgoth, and returning free will to its inhabitants. Therefore, he was free to change and shape history for the better, and there the game ends, with Kain starting to believe in hope.
Now at last, the masks had fallen away. The strings of the puppets had become visible, and the hands of the Prime Mover exposed. Most ironic of all was the last gift that Raziel had given me. More powerful than the sword that now held his soul, more acute even than the vision his sacrifice had accorded me. The first bitter taste of that terrible illusion. Hope.
However, we must circle back to the final mystery. One of the problems with the Legacy of Kain series is the imbalance that the game represents. The story is revolved around Kain, Scion of Balance. However, there is a key component missing within the world of Nosgoth. We have the angelic vampires, and perhaps even the angelic Hilden. And then we have the creatures of the demon dimension, that are in stark contrast to them. Furthermore, we have the Luciferic Elder God, who is the highest evil within Nosgoth, master manipulator working behind the scenes and completely unseen until the end of Defiance, intent on the annihilation and destruction of Nosgoth and all its inhabitants. But then this creates an imbalance, or at least it seemingly does. If the Elder God represents a sort of malevolent god, then where is the presence of his opposite? Missing from the world of Nosgoth and Legacy of Kain is the presence of a benevolent creator. However, this can be remedied if we consider how Raziel was able to survive the Lake of the Dead. His unique resurrection untethered him from the Wheel of Fate, something that would not be desirable for the Elder God. And so who was it truly that created Raziel? My answer, though it is not canonical, is that there is the presence of a benevolent creator. However, our characters and inhabitants of Nosgoth can never meet this creator because they are trapped in the Elder God's wheel. This would make sense, and would create a perfect balance within the world and the lore. The Elder God didn't possess the means to control Raziel, nor could he destroy him. This power lay outside the Wheel of Fate, outside his own power, and so he could never have been Raziel's creator. Raziel's resurrection became the instrument of Nosgoth's salvation, a being granted free will and also one that chose to sacrifice himself for the good of the world, again paralleling the actions of Jesus in the Bible, allowing all other beings in Nosgoth to now choose their own paths and create their own destinies, and not abide by the paths created for them by the Elder God. Ariel even hinted at it when she said that the blade had to be purified by spirit. In order for Nosgoth to be saved, the spirit first had to be purified. Then, the shackles of the wheel could be shaken off, and for the first time in Nosgoth's history, the future was not determined. Although the game doesn't end with Kain bringing about a healthy and thriving Nosgoth, it is a good ending, one that has a lot of potential for good, especially considering the time that Kain now finds himself in, before the tragic deaths of Uma, Vorador, and Janos, before the betrayal of his vampiric allies, before he would resurrect Raziel and the others and cast them into the abyss. There was a chance to change his legacy for the better, and perhaps work together with those that he had previously lost or forsaken for the betterment of Nosgoth.